Manam Islanders proceed with resettlement program. Overcrowding in East New Britain's Kerevat jail. And Papua New Guinea to face New Zealand for a spot in Rio.
This is National EMTV News with Mary Bartolo.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for Tuesday's news. The Manam resettlement process of moving the volcano-displaced Manam Islanders to a new location will go ahead despite the resettlement bill not being tabled in Parliament last year. Work has started at the resettlement site in Andarum of the Joseph Stal district of Madang province. Rachel Shisei has more from Madang.
Resettlement of the Manam Islanders has to happen one way or another because the people are suffering.
Police suffer, especially care centers. Care centers and ground in Nungut. Hospital Kokonasia. I used to have 11 years from this block something. We did in same area. You don't have planning one plus something. Kaya minonat. And sani kam cookie mortgage garden blow, taro bagara, pakao inogat. Banana too, or no karem good, or goligli.
The resettlement coordinator went on to mention that there is little or no assessments at all regarding money coming in, how it is spent, and whether or not the relief supplies are enough.
Okay, no, na. Okay, me long, say 1 week something supply. Now this flower line only needing at least 6 months supply.
Work has already begun at the resettlement site with teams of surveyors yet to complete and compile reports to help secure funds from overseas for expenses of moving into another community's land. The Manam Islanders are the country's internally displaced group of people which should have been given first priority by both the national and the provincial governments. That's not happening, which is where the Manam Resettlement Bill comes in, where the Manam Islanders try to get the national government to help.
I need long current laws like that. Mama law blow uni constitution, na organic law, na provincial and local level government administrative law, even the latest is BDA law. All get a supporting what we are doing. Now the only problem is like that. That was an MP blow me plan. Otherwise, all get something you're right. People are working long legal framework.
The people, through their leaders, are pleading to the government, saying their votes are also counted in elections.
This government must try and help people resettle more. And the only solution to the whole problem.
Rachel Shisei, National EMTV News, Madang.
Lay Metropolitan Commander Chief Superintendent Anthony Wagambi Jr. wants the 7 incomplete duplexes at Bumbu Police Barracks completed quickly. The Lay Command wants officers who are living in the settlements to be accommodated in proper homes so that it can improve their performances at work.
The Bumbu Police Barracks housing program in Lay began in 2012. It cost 2.5 million kina. The project was meant to ease the chronic housing problem faced by the constabulary. The contractors have left. The houses are uncompleted and the yards are overgrown with weeds. At least 2 members of the constabulary are living in the settlements. The others still live in condemned housing in the police barracks. Wagambi will be liaising with the police headquarters to find out why these houses are yet to be completed.
For certain reasons I'm not too aware of, but when I was handed over the command from outgoing Metsub, Mr. Lakatani, I was also briefed on that. Those houses must be completed on time, quickly, because we need to utilize those houses to put our personnel inside. We have a couple of our people still out living in the settlements and all that, so it has a big impact on the performance.
Into the 4th year and the 7 duplexes remain incomplete. Lay policemen and women have the difficult task of policing PNG's fastest and growing city. Despite living in filthy condition, they continue to provide an essential service. This year, ACP for Northern Region Peter Guinness had also questioned why those houses were yet to be completed. As the government talks about increasing manpower within the constabulary, it must first address the accommodation problem faced by the constabulary. Senior officers within the constabulary say there is no point recruiting young personnel when there is no accommodation for them.
But how can we be able to accommodate these recruits when we don't have accommodation? We cannot come out and allow them to walk around the street or sleep on the tree branch to come and work, and by no God. They need to be properly housed, they need to be properly accommodated, so that when they come out, then they can be able to execute their duties accordingly.
Mataluwis, National EMTV News, Ley.
The Kerevat jail in East New Britain province is reported to have exceeded prison capacity. Jail Commander Simon Sobaim says the number of inmates have increased from 300 to over 500 in the last 2 years. Prison staff have also raised concerns over the steady deterioration of the jail infrastructure as the number of inmates continues to grow. Edwin Fidelis reports.
This was one of the few times media was allowed to film inside a prison compound that revealed the state of the jail. The Kerevat prison holds both low and high-risk prisoners and juveniles that come from West New Britain, Manus, New Ireland and Buka. These pictures show the interior of the female prison area. It is a staff house that has been converted to a female prison as the jail doesn't have a cell block to hold female inmates. Inside the building, Iris Youi, the female staff on duty, shows me the cells that can cater to only one female inmate. But because of the increase, 2 female inmates have been forced to use only one cell.
7 room station, more than 7. I'm only double up about sleeping about the floor.
The kitchen has been relocated to the outside of the building, and the shower block has seen better days.
Number of detainees coming in, female detainees, and one tap last year, 15, people got the highest was 18.
The jail commander, Simon Sobaim, tells me it is the same story in the male's prison compound.
I have 521 prisoners. The only capacity in this jail is supposed to be 300, but we exceeded 221 extra.
As Kerevat jail continues to cater to the other 4 provinces, it is concerned about the state of its rundown infrastructure. Many may not see the urgency to upgrade the rundown state of prisons all over the country, but for those who deal directly with prisoners, it is a serious concern. Now, Kerevat jail hasn't recorded any instances of any mass breakout as yet, but prison staff says that doesn't make it any safer.
Our fences are very, very old. It was built when I didn't join the correctional service.
Here you can see the severity of the problem that the PNG Correctional Service faced all over the country. Numerous commitments made by the government to improve jail facilities all over the country have achieved poor results. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
The Motu Koitabu village of Pari in the Mosby South electorate is facing severe water problems since last year. Women leader Gewa Sasala told MTV News they have suffered enough and authorities must assist them. The villagers are travelling back into town by truck or boat to purchase water from other Motu Koitabu villages and nearby settlements.
The Pari community came together this morning to express their concern over the water supply into the village. It's a similar story everywhere as people load their containers to travel to Sabama, Kaugere and Vabukori to pay and bring back water.
I'm just sit down and wait for vehicles. Otherwise, some ladies sit for hours.
Pari hosts a population of nearly 4,000 people. Their call to authorities has received little attention. They want leaders to do something.
Other Motu Koita people are not paying for their water. Why should Pari? We're just like them. We're the landowners too.
Mipla should kiss him free. Na Mipla should not go outside. Mipla should step inside lo Pari blo Mipla na kiss him wara lo house do blo Mipla.
The Waswas House project by Prime Minister Peter O'Neill opened last year is also closed. Women leaders say children are becoming sick every day with other diseases also becoming common.
So the water that we receive is also, we claim that it's a dirty water that we take. Some of us are suffering from typhoid, diarrhea, the children especially.
The local health center is closed and parents say the primary school will be affected as well. A water bill of 224,000 is outstanding, but locals are questioning the bill.
How come water bill is rising when we are not actually getting water from here in the village?
The community will present a petition next week to NTD Governor Powers Pakop, Mosby South MP and water utility Edarano.
And we have brought the governor here some 2 or 3 years ago. He heard our complaints, he heard our needs, and he went back and he went for good. He probably has done something, but not that we know of.
No water, we need water.
Jack Lepava Jr., National MTV News.
Treasury Minister Patrick Pruich said the deliberate reduction in government spending last year has ensured the 2016 national budget remains realistic. The Treasurer said despite worsening global economic conditions, PNG is in a much more comfortable situation compared to last year. Mr. Pruich said government expenditures are expected to remain low for the remainder of this decade.
In a statement released yesterday, Treasurer Pruich said the PNG government has been dealing with a looming deficit through a deliberate conservative spending approach. The Department of Treasury cut spending to less than the 2014 level of 15.5 billion kina. This year's planned expenditure is 14.76 billion kina, lower than the spending of the last 2 years. The sudden plunge in crude oil prices in 2014 impacted sharply on the government's revenue, but Mr. Pruich said this was taken care of through the 2015 supplementary budget. The Treasurer was confident that another fall in crude oil prices of that same magnitude is unlikely. Treasurer Pruich also took a swipe at the Governor of the Central Bank, Loy Bakani, for predicting a worsening fiscal situation on the basis that the government revenue of 12.7 billion kina would largely depend on the mineral and petroleum sectors. The Treasurer labeled the statement as misleading. He said a sensitive part of the budget was the increase in personal income tax. Pruich said a major concern was the lack of adequate foreign exchange, which is restricting growth prospects, and he questioned what the Bank of PNG was doing to address this issue. Lorraine Gabina, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News. Among stories after the break, B-Mobile Vodafone's limited offer to trade old phones for new ones. Welcome back to the news. The Treasury Department, together with development partners, have launched a Personal Property Security Act online registry today. This online registry is a new framework that will allow small and medium enterprises and private sector to obtain loans with any accepted property as collateral. Treasury Minister Patrick Pruich launched the online registry today.
The Personal Property Security Act online registry is a new form of secured lending. SME and the private sector are now able to access finance and contribute to the economic development. It will change the old ways of borrowing and lending, especially for middle and low-income earners.
This will improve the capacity of SMEs and individuals to access credit, and lenders, on the other hand, will remain confident knowing that their money lended out is fully secured in the event of a default.
The old scheme of receiving a loan is that lenders will only issue loans to those who have a security, such as registered state-leased land with clear titles. Since most ordinary Papua New Guineans and SMEs do not own such securities, they are denied access to credits. But with the introduction of this online security registry, everyone will be able to secure loans using properties such as vehicles, machinery or stock. The Investment Promotion Authority, or IPA, is the appointed registrar.
And the registry then provides a level of comfort to lenders to be able to say, yes, we have first call on the asset.
The project is an initiative of the Treasury Department and supported by Asian Development Bank and PNG Chamber of Commerce.
A piece of legislation which gives certainty to lenders, a certainty which they have not had previously at any point in time.
Moreover, lenders will no longer require the services of a lawyer and a court order to repossess a pledged asset in the event of non-repayment.
One has the comfort of going online and searching for that exact description of the vehicle. And, if they're able to see that it's been pledged, then they make the decision that they don't purchase that vehicle or, they go and make another inquiry somewhere else.
Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
Anyone in Papua New Guinea can now exchange their old mobile phones for a new one as long as the old phone is still in working condition. B-Mobile Vodafone Group CEO Sundar Ramamurthy said phone owners can trade in their old phones at a price of 19 kina. It is a limited offer which will run for 10 days from January the 20th to the 30th.
At a media conference today, CEO Ramamurthy said the exchange offer came about as B-Mobile Vodafone recognized that many phone users still use their old handsets because they are unable to afford new ones.
If you've got a phone that's 7 years old, 6 years old, 5 years old that you want changed out, bring it in, you pick up a new phone for 19 kina. We think there are a lot of people out there with very old phones and they can't afford the extra money to upgrade to the newer phones or to smartphones, and so this gives you an opportunity for 19 kina. There are no phones really out there in the market today for 19 kina.
Mr. Ramamurthy said B-Mobile Vodafone has a refurbishment policy and a comprehensive program that addresses environmental concerns, especially when it comes to the proper disposal of old phones and batteries, which can be harmful.
Vodafone has a very comprehensive program of how we deal with so we want to make sure that it is, that it's not put into landfill because these phones have batteries in them, they just spoil the environment. It has to be taken care of properly and according to world-class standards. So you don't just take the phone and throw it in the bin.
B-Mobile Vodafone network coverage has a reach of 5.5 million to 6 million people. The CEO said that the SIM registration process is progressing well for the company following the launch of the compulsory SIM card registration regulation launched by the government and regulator NICTA last year. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
Northern Provincial Police Commander Lincoln Gerari has declared 2016 as the year of change within the police force. He says his vision is in line with the Police Commissioner's vision of maintaining basic discipline within the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary. Police personnel in the province are being urged to change their attitudes.
Police operations in Popondetta Northern Province will be in full swing this year. Provincial Police Commander Lincoln Gerari says the 2016 operations will be targeting the production and consumption of home brew and the cultivation and distribution of marijuana. Although major crimes such as armed robberies, murder and rape are declining, there are still pockets of such criminal activities that need policing. He says home brew and marijuana arrive along the border of Morobe and Milne Bay provinces. The Christmas and New Year operations have seen more than 20 youths surrender to police their equipment for producing home brew and uprooted marijuana plants. The first 10 defendants charged with producing home brew and cultivating marijuana appeared before Senior Magistrate Vincent Linge at the Popondetta District Court last Monday. They were found guilty and sentenced to 6 months imprisonment with hard labor at Biru Correctional Service Institution in Popondetta. A fine of 2,000 kina was also imposed on them by the magistrate. Gerari believes the sentencing will act as a deterrent for future criminal activities. More prisoners are expected to appear before the court to answer to their charges, but slow court file preparations has been blamed for the delay. Arresting officers have now been notified to submit their court information by the end of this week to expedite the process. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
Despite subsidized free healthcare services, the cost of transporting medical supplies into rural areas remains extremely costly. Private and church-run health centers and aid posts in rural areas are feeling the pinch of high freight costs that need to be subsidized as well. Evangelical Church of PNG Health Secretary Keith Kedeki says churches run many health facilities in rural areas and they are really burdened with the cost of transporting medical supplies.
High cost of transportation has been a concern many church-run health facilities in rural areas have been burdened with. Churches are sole operators of many health centers and aid posts in rural PNG. Annually, the national government provides over 5 million kina to church health services, but even that money is insufficient to maintain health facilities in rural areas. According to ECPNG Health Secretary Kate Kedekai, the money paid to church health services is distributed to all existing health facilities, and those in rural areas are feeling the pinch of rating supplies.
The free healthcare, if you try to put everything together, we get almost about 5 million out of the 20 million allocated by the government. And all the church health services in this country, the department pay about 5 million to the Christian health services, and then from Christian health services based in Fort Moresby, they then allocate the money. And if you look at that amount of money that we, like 5 million for the all in the country, you're looking about we're getting 1,000 kina. Like here, you're looking about they're getting about 1,500 or 600 kina.
The ECPNG Church operates 16 aid posts, 2 health centers, and 13 sub-health centers in Southern Highlands Province. Recently, the Semberigi Sub-Health Center was upgraded to health center status. The cost of freighting medical supplies is costly, and church-run health facilities are calling on the government to subsidize freighting.
The freight would also be more. So with free healthcare, it is not enough. And then, you look in a very remote area like Semberigi. I think if we are going to look at that, all that, we need an increase in that funding.
Quinten Alom, National EMTV News.
Former Attorney General and member for Sinasina Youngmul, Kerenga Kwa, is strongly against the decision for a single vegetable importer. In an interview with EMTV this afternoon, Mr. Kwa said Agriculture Minister Tommy Tomskol must come out and provide his reasons. Kwa says the vegetable monopoly by one importer is discriminatory. Meanwhile, the member Kwa said the recent statement by Minister Tomskol for David Kon to resign is uncalled for.
If you want to give an exemption, then you've got to give it to a class of people in that industry. He needs to explain the criteria, the pathway he followed to come out to this destination, to this conclusion that only this one importer should be given the exemption as opposed to everybody else. He needs to explain that, how and why.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3315 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3240 US, $0.4683 Australian dollars, $0.2942 euro, and 37.75 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, and cocoa, and as well as copra closed the day higher. Palm oil and copper closed lower, while crude oil closed the day higher. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed at 163 points lower, the ASX closed 5 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed 2 points lower. You're watching National EMTV News. More local and international news after the break, including the passing of famous guitarist from the 70s band, the Eagles, Glenn Frey. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Landowners in the LNG-impacted provinces have been urged to work together to acquire the equity shares of 4.22%. The call comes from PDL1 landowner chairman Joe Kekeno. Mr. Kekeno says landowners must put their differences aside and work together to acquire the shares.
Only 6 months was given to landowners in the PNG LNG impacted areas to purchase shares of 4.22% from ExxonMobil LNG project. The shares are managed by the Kumul Petroleum Company. With the 6 months fast coming to an end, landowners in the impacted areas in Ella, Southern Highlands, Western, Gulf and Central provinces are conducting meetings to find a possible financier. PDL1 landowner and spokesman Joe Kekeno says his group has found a possible partner who is willing to fully finance the equity shares on behalf of the landowners. Landowner company can later repay the money on conditions agreed to.
But our case, we have a finance already in place. We already liaised with the government. Government gave a green light already. So the call is on the landowners to get together and appoint the only selective directors on an interim basis to secure this loan.
However, he is appealing to all landowner groups to put their differences aside and work together before the 6 months lapses.
So the financer will finance the full 3 billion Kenya.
Mineral Resource Development Company Managing Director Agustin Mano says they will assess all situations before commenting on the equity payment.
We're waiting for the landowners to exercise their options, and within those we have the mandate. We are looking at the options to exercise, so we're still working. It's too early for me to give details of what we enter, but we're working on those options.
Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
At least 4 local entrepreneurs have joined PNG Ecotourism Consultancy Services to venture into the ecotourism industry. This partnership will pave way for local entrepreneurs to find overseas markets to sell PNG art.
The ecotourism industry in the country was boosted with the inclusion of local entrepreneurs from Kimbe, Medeng, Central and Bougainville. They are Peter Wallet from Kimbe, Director of South Coast Ecotourism Association, Tony Karok, Director of Nabak Village-based Ecotourism Association, and interested cooperatives Judy Kiru from the Autonomous Region of Bougainville and Clemens Fodley from Medeng. Ecotourism Consultancy Services Director Francis Stevens said more partnerships and involvement by local entrepreneurs has encouraged locals to venture into this sector.
Private sector, we are the people that make money for the country. We drive revenue. In terms of tourism, ecotourism, it's a very big industry. And we are trying to, when you talk about balance of payment, the money coming to the country currently, it really boosts the economy.
Like including ecotourism income, and me like try long. Kasi mo kataliklik na big plow man lo place.
Me come up to the association now book me olim. Me like me bring him to service go lo place long albi me bla.
Me like build him resort or some guest house lo place. Na working bring him lily training go back lo line lo place.
The partnership will enable authorities like Tourism Promotion Authority and Office of Arts and Culture to create markets for their products. They are also happy with the new Tourism Minister Justin Chichonko's push for ecotourism projects in the country. However, they said the only impediments are stakeholders' involvement and government funding to negotiate with well partners in creating markets for them to sell their products overseas. Eric Arupman, National EMTV News.
Turning abroad, and British lawmakers have called on Donald Trump all manner of names during a debate on whether to ban him from entering the United Kingdom. The debate came as a result of his comments on Muslims. Though Trump was openly and ruthlessly criticized, Prime Minister David Cameron does not support the idea of banning him from entering Britain.
U.S. Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump has thrown himself before British criticism after making controversial statements regarding Muslims entering the United States. According to British Democrat unionist Gavin Robinson, Trump's remarks are for the purpose of attracting limelight.
So you don't need a crystal ball to recognize that the person you're dealing with, maybe a successful businessman, is also a buffoon and has the dangerous capability of saying the most obscene or insensitive things to attract attention.
The unusual debate, which saw Trump being called a buffoon and bonkers, was triggered by a petition signed by more than 500,000 people calling for him to be barred from Britain. Angered by his remarks, Robinson is ready to confidently challenge Trump.
Bring him here. Let us have the opportunity to challenge him and let him go home with his tail between his legs and recognize that the principles he espoused no longer reflect this country the United States of America or the aspirations that we should all seek to promote internationally.
British lawmakers believe Trump's stance does not reflect his country.
Turning as I must to Mr. Trump, his comments regarding Muslims are wrong. His policy to close borders, if he is elected as president, is bonkers. And if he met one or two of my constituents in one of the many excellent pubs in my constituency, then they may well tell him that he is a wazzock for dealing with this issue in this way.
Lorraine Gabina, EMTV World News.
To some entertainment now, and backed by popular demand, English band UB40 will be arriving in Port Moresby tomorrow. Upon their arrival, the trio will make an appearance at a media conference scheduled for 4 p.m. at the Airways Hotel. The band is set for 2 concerts, one to be held at the Lamana Hotel's Gold Club on January the 29th and the other at the Sir John Guy Stadium on the 30th. Ticket prices have been slashed from 100 kina to 50 kina for the stadium concert. Southern Californian 70s rock band The Eagles lost its guitarist and founder Glenn Frey on Monday. Frey passed away in New York after suffering rheumatoid arthritis complications, pneumonia and an acute bowel disease. The famous guitarist was 67.
Detroit-born Glenn Frey co-founded the Eagles band with drummer and singer Don Henley in 1971 in Los Angeles, writing and co-writing many of the group's songs along with Henley after playing as a backup band for rock singer Linda Ronstadt.
Get your kicks on Route 66.
Blending rock with country music genres, the Eagles became one of the most popular bands in the 1970s, with hit songs such as Hotel California, Peaceful Easy Feeling, Already Gone,
Look up in the sky. You can see the stars and still not see the light. That's right. For me, I'm already gone.
and Take It Easy. Frey was described by Henley to be like a brother, adding that like most other families, there was some dysfunction, however the bond they had was never broken. Frey continued to pursue a successful solo career even after the band broke up in 1980, up until their reunion in 1994 when they released their album Hell Freezes Over.
Already standing on the ground.
Lorraine Gabina, EMTV World News.
And that's how we end our news segment. Trukai Sports is next. We have news on soccer, tennis and rugby league. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with football, and New Zealand has named its women's team to take on Papua New Guinea in a bid to secure a spot at the Olympic Games in Rio. The New Zealand football Ferns have been bolstered with a combination of youth from both the under-20 and under-17 squads. PNG will face off with New Zealand in a 2-match decider. The first match to be played in Cook Islands this Saturday.
The playoffs begin with the first leg in Lae, Papua New Guinea on January 23rd, 5 p.m. New Zealand time, before the return leg of Auckland's QBE Stadium on January 26th at 7:30 p.m. Football fans coach Tony Riddings said the new recruits, 2 of whom made the international debuts against Brazil, have bolstered his options ahead of another important year in the evolution of New Zealand's side. Riddings said he will use the playoff as another opportunity to hone the team's work in the final third of the field while taking due account of their opponents. New Zealand have met Papua New Guinea twice before, in the playoff for the OFC Olympic berth, winning 2-0 in Port Moresby in 2008, before taking an aggregate 15-0 victory over 2 legs in the lead-up to the 2012 London Olympics, where the fans reached the quarter-final stage for the first time. In their most recent matchup, the football fans were 3-0 winners over Papua New Guinea when qualifying for the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup in Canada. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
Opposition leader Don Pollier has supported calls for Tonga to host the 2019 Pacific Games. In a meeting with the Prime Minister of Tonga, Akilisi Pohiva, Mr. Pollier said Tonga will rise to the challenge to host the Games. Pollier said despite PNG having its own financial challenges, helping with technical and administration support to Tonga would be vital. The opposition leader also called on Tonga to also seek assistance from Australia and New Zealand. Papua New Guinea tennis star Abigail Tere Apisa is currently preparing for her Asia-Pacific campaign set to take place next week in Melbourne, Australia. The world-class Asia-Pacific Tennis League, which will feature Abigail, has some of the best tennis players from around the region competing. The 23-year-old is now training in Brisbane, preparing for the tournament, which begins on the 27th of this month.
Growing up as the eldest daughter to Kwalam Apisa and Verenagi Tere, who are both certified tennis coaches, Abigail did not stumble upon tennis by accident and started playing at an early age. At just 22 years old, Abigail is currently preparing for her Asia-Pacific campaign next week. After her defeat in the 2016 Queensland Money Race Championships last week, Abigail will represent the Pacific region next week. Following her outstanding performances at the recent Pacific Games on home soil last July, Abigail is expected to once again make PNG proud. The Asia-Pacific Tennis League, which is regarded as a world-class tournament, will see Abigail up against some of the best in the entity. The tournament will begin on the 27th of January. Jaylee Sapies, National EMTV Sports.
To some rugby league now, and Hunters coach Michael Marum was shown every courtesy by the Brisbane Broncos training staff during a development trip last week. Marum was driven around by Brisbane Broncos coach Wayne Bennett to visit the Broncos training facilities. Wayne's brother, Bob, was once the coach of the PNG national side and has always had a link to rugby league in the country. Marum was pleased with the visit and observed all the training and the gym sessions. The Hunters coach said the focus for his players will be on the basics, as he noticed during the Broncos training sessions. He said the standards are high and he hopes to bring back a few lessons for the PNG Hunters. Trukai Sports continues after the break. We will be back with all the details.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To tennis now, an Australian favourite, Leighton Hewitt, is set to call time on his international tennis career 20 years after making his first appearance at the Australian Open. The former world #1 will bow out at Melbourne Park, where he made his Grand Slam debut in 1997. Hewitt's final Australian Open campaign will start against fellow countryman James Duckworth, a 23-year-old from Sydney, ranked 134th in the world.
34-year-old former world #1 tennis player Leighton Hewitt is into his final international tennis appearance at the Australian Open, which began yesterday. Following 2 decades in the sport, the 2-time Grand Slam winner is expected to bow out in style as one of Australia's most iconic tennis players in his time. Hewitt, who was first ranked world #1 at age 20, has come a long way since. He not only attracted attention through his obvious love for the sport, he also managed to divide opinions on court with his unfitting behavior. Either way, Hewitt's ability and passion for the game has never been questioned. His former coach Darren Cahill once said about him, "The one thing that defined him and why he's earned so much respect is that they know when he played for his country that he would leave everything he had on the court." Hewitt is expected to formally resign from tennis following the finals of the 2016 Australian Open in Melbourne, Australia. Jaylee Sapies, National EMTV Sports.
To a bit of kite surfing now, and dozens of kite surfers gathered on the sandy beaches of Mexico's Los Barriles in the state of Baja California for a 5-day event over the weekend. The kite surfers were taking part in the 6th annual Lord of the Wind competition.
The 6th annual Lord of the Wind competition in Los Barriles is the largest kite surfing event in North American continent. The Pro Kite Foil competition consisted of 15 races and was won comfortably by American Joey Pasquili. Ahead of Frenchman Julien Canard, Canard won the Men's Pro Big Air tournament ahead of Jacob Olivia, while Canard also did well in the Slalom Pro events. In the Men's Pro category, finishing third behind top finisher Bruno Ferreira and Max Skeggs in second. In the Women's Pro Slalom tournament, Just Ivanada came first. The Women's Big Air Pro event was won by Cynthia Brown. The total prize money for the competitors came to $22,150. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
And that ends True Kai Sports. We'll have the weather details for the next 24 hours when we come back.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
Here's a look at the weather for the next 24 hours. We begin in the southern region, Port Moresby. Fine, although cloudy at times, a shower or two in Daru, and fine weather expected in Kerema, Alotau and Popondetta. To the Momase region, mostly fine in Lei and Wau, and fine weather expected in Madang, Wewak and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine in Kavieng and Kimbe, cloudy in Lorengau, and brief showers expected in Kokopo, Rabaul and Buka. And in the Highlands region, low cloud expected in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg over the next 24 hours. I'll look at the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerema, Yule Island to Hood Point to Samarai Island, seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands with waters of Samarai Island to Cape Vogel, Finchafen with waters of Finchafen including Vitias Strait, CSC Islands, Long Island, waters west of Long Island to Medang, to Bogia, Wewak, Aitape, to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and waters of New Island to New Britain and Bougainville, seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral Sea, seas slight to moderate with southeasterly winds at 10 to 20 knots. Solomon Sea, seas slight with southeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. Bismarck Sea, seas slight with northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. And the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with northeast to northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. Before we go, recapping our main stories for tonight. Manam Islanders proceed with resettlement program, overcrowding in East New Britain's Kerevat jail, and Papua New Guinea to face New Zealand for a spot in Rio. And that has been the news, sports and weather for today, the 19th of January 2016. On behalf of the EMTV News team, I'm Mary Batulo. Pleasant viewing. Good night.